order our board meeting for WUSA on today, the 13th of June, 2024. We're only 15 minutes ahead of time, apparently, because this is scheduled to start at 6:30, technically. Before I even get there, I have regrets from Martini for like first half of the meeting. I think everyone else is present. Are we missing anyone today? All right, cool. Well then, our territorial acknowledgement. The Board of Directors acknowledges that University of Waterloo is on the traditional territory of the neutral Anishinaabe and Haudenosaunee peoples. Our organization operates in the Haldeman Tract, land promised to the Six Nations, which includes 6 miles to the east side of the Grand River. Something that I've been hearing a lot today and then the past few days, and it's been nice to see that expanded upon. Interesting to see how that develops over time. There's the new structure that's being built to try and encourage further things. But I don't know, one of the things that I think has left with me during various ceremonial activities over the past few days is the presence of the Eagle staff being used to acknowledge that people come to Waterloo from across the world, and honoring and respecting that people are very international and that we are not just a school that is for local residents, but also for all of our colleagues around the world. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes of the last meeting? I see one hand. I think that's Arya. Yeah. That is all right. Yeah, sorry. Is totally invisible behind Teresa. Do we have any seconds? To Matthew to second. And then I guess we have the meeting minutes available. Does anybody have any specific concerns about the minutes, or should we move right to a vote? I'll give you a second, but just in case. All right, seeing none, let's vote on the minutes. Everyone who is for the minutes. Wow. I'm going to assume that Teresa online doesn't count. That seems like everybody. As far as I can tell, that is everybody. I think it's unanimous, so I think we can move on. Is it not unanimous? Can anybody put up their hand if it isn't unanimous? Looks unanimous. All right, agenda approval. We have, I'm supposed to submit this, which is, either resolve the board approves the meeting agenda as presented. Does anyone have any changes they'd like to make to the agenda? And also, can I get a second? Because I forgot to do that. All right, Siobhan for a second on that. Anybody have any changes to the agenda? All the agenda changes got in. People are comfortable with the agenda? Look both directions. I assume that's fine. Very good. Can I guess I'll start the other way. Can I get all votes against approving the agenda? Can I get all abstentions? Okay, I see none of either of those types, so I'm going to assume that's unanimous approval. We have no conflict of interest. We have a bunch of things today that you might have a conflict of interest in. All right, like you a first year, maybe that matters. Does anyone need to declare conflict in the meeting coming up today? Sarah, what's up?
I was going to say that, in regards to the petition, I have participated in communications coming through Occupy UW, if you guys know the group representing the encampment. So I don't believe that this affects my ability to deliberate on the matter of the petition fairly, as is my duty, but I do see how some may consider it a bias, so I'm declaring a bias on this matter, just as an FYI for all of you to know.
When you say contact, can we talk to them or
I have done communications on behalf of them, like communicated on behalf of Occupy UW to the general public.
So yes.
Cool. Any further discussion? Your bias is acknowledged. Sorry. Anybody else have stuff to say? To move into the main section. I don't think any of us are first years, so I think I'm not going to immediately call anybody out on the new business item 1. But new business item 1, we have budget approval requirements, specifically about all of those little box things that we send out over the summer, which I don't know if you've received. I have one of them. It's in my backpack at home. But it is, if we want to send it out for orientation, we need to approve that budget now. The text of the motion is, be it resolved that the immediate approval of the budget for the procurement of sustainable cutlery sets. The approved budget range should be between 16,905 and 20,000 to allow flexibility in final shipping and handling charges. Excuse me. Be it further resolved that the WUSA board approves the proposed budget of up to $20,000 for the procurement of sustainable cutlery sets as orientation kit free gifts for incoming first year members of WUSA. Do I have somebody who can motion this to bring it to the floor? Alex, and a second. I'll second that just for the sake of clarity. Sorry, I'll bring up my list in case we need to do speaking order. I think, does anybody have anything that they feel very pressing on talking about this too? Does anyone really want to speak to this? I do have one question, which is this similar to last year's cost for these kits? Is Kelly online? Melissa, what's up?
Hi, I can take that one. Yes, we have been able to get the company, our supplier, to keep the cost the same as last year. So we're able to keep the cost per unit the same for the lesser quantity that we need this year. So I do have a one slider. If folks want me to put it up, it's just the picture and sort of that overall high level. But if nobody has any questions, that works too. But the cost will remain the same as last year.
All right, cool. Jeff.
Just a question. Is there a reason why we're like approving this as a separate thing? Is this just every year? It's like WUSA is contributing this towards orientation, so we'll do it something like this every year.
Oh, looks like Suzanne wants to.
Because we haven't approved the budget, and according to policy manual, anything over 1/3, like we're able to spend up to 1/3 of last year's budget, but this exceeds that line. I will bring it.
All right. Any further discussion before we hold the vote? Okay, seeing none, I will ask for votes against to start. Votes against. I'll give you a second in case you're online. All right. Seeing none, I'll move to abstentions, and I would like to abstain on this myself. But does anybody else care to abstain? All right. Seeing none, I'll ask for the votes for. And that is many people.
Should we do online? Is that better?
I think it is overwhelming. Correct me if I'm wrong, but that easily passes. Everyone good with it passing? Anyone complaining about the count? Okay, I think we're okay.
Stop the count.
We have our next motion. Oh, Emma, do you have something to say, or is your hand just up? Okay, I'm going to assume that's a no.
Sorry, no, yeah.
Hey, don't worry about it. We have an evaluation component, which is about I'm just doing an evaluation. I do not know what this means within the context of a meeting. The text is, Salopec had worked with the previous board administration and the governance department to develop a comprehensive survey template on the overall board performance, individual board member performance, and director self-evaluation. A proposal was drawn and presented. However, there is no further actionable item from parties involved. The administration needs to discuss the board evaluation mechanisms and the timeline for including a proposal from Salopec. Do we actually have that proposal easily available?
Let's ask Marvin.
Marvin, do you have a proposal easily available?
Oh, no. The proposal that we had was from the previous administration. So this board is now to request a proposal from Salopec in respect of board evaluation.
The one discussion thing that I think it would be prudent to bring up. Oh, sorry. I heard your voice online if I'm interrupted. I'm going to assume that's okay. The one discussion item that I did want to bring up as well, to be those two parts, is I guess we should look at our board evaluation schedule, which is a document that you should have had sent from Mike. So I think those are the two aspects to talk about here. We got the Salopec and the thing that Mike has already shared with you. Mostly because, do we want to start with the one that the action plan thing, the aspects of review as part of the action plan? This makes sense, right? I am saying words that make sense. Feels like people are very quiet today. Let's start with stuff. Okay, I'll see can we get the current version of the action plan pulled up? Maybe on the screen. Is that something we can do? To find it, because I forgot what I was going to do this. Action plan. Oh, that's what it's called. Sorry, thank you. Work plan. Yeah. Okay. Trying to find where that is though. I'm bad at navigating Microsoft Teams. Plan. Board work plan. Plan. Okay, I have it up. So as part of the board work plan, we have a couple of things that we were looking at specifically. The stuff that's already supposed to be done for the month of May, that's kind of related, was that we were supposed to have already finished the draft by May, the end of May, and we did not. Whoops. The other fun things here, we have a couple of things that come up in the board work plan as it is currently looking. There is some training, which is kind of related, but then there's also review priorities. Where's the actual important thing? This is later than I thought it'd be. Monthly, no. Where this here? Am I just not finding it yet? The only one I've spotted is annual executive director evaluation. That feels like where am I looking in months to find director evaluations?
Should be July, November, March. Sorry, executive director or board?
Board. Oh, termly. It's once a term. Sorry, that's okay. Termly. So we have currently July, and then November, and then March. Okay, found it. Sorry. That's our context there. Is we're planning on doing 3 of these. How many executive director ones are we looking at? Just the one for now? 1, 2? Alex would like to speak. No, he's just saying we currently have 1 planned in. Okay. I guess that's our back on context.
I'd like to speak.
Sorry, have fun.
I'll say this, it looks good. This work plan looks pretty stable, well put together. The one area, we're clicking on the board work plan right now, because I think the accountability mechanism was what was in question originally, but I'll tell you what, this book.
I wanted to just bring it up to
Yeah.
How it fits in.
Okay, I think it fits
in
in.
the review parts.
Yeah, I think depends. I would like to hear from previous members of board as well, with their experience of how it was before. If this works, compared to the other board, what were inefficiencies in the previous board that we can resolve with this board's plan. So if you have any experiences you want to share, that would help. But from my view, it looks fine. I mean, there's no reason to. I'm looking at Alex, Jay, and Matthew. What, any issues last board with accountability and does this look reasonable?
I think it looks reasonable, and we're still going to continue having accountability discussions and governance committee.
Awesome. That's all I need.
Do you have any specific opinions about Salopec?
I think some of the questions could have been a little sharper, and I feel like we told Salopec that. I feel like that was part of the. Did we not give them questions? I think we gave them questions to improve on. Maybe not. Maybe I'm making this up in my head, but I do think it would be better to get sharper questions out of them. But if we're going to be doing this anyways, We already have Salopec doing it for us, so there's no need to switch.
Are they doing more than building survey?
I feel like the answer is yes, but to my knowledge, no.
Like, do they come in and actually interview people, or is it just writing survey questions?
Random survey questions, I believe. Right.
So he can sort of be what the board would like, sort of set it up for the first year, having conversations about what we thought might work, and they made suggestions, but if the board would like to see something different from them, then let us know and we can,
I think there was something that I commented on in the plan somewhere where I asked if this was something that Sandra would do. And I think Mike told me that it isn't something Sandra would do, it's something that Salopec would do. Or do I have it backwards? Not sure.
Sandra, feel free. We're not really in our discussion.
Yeah, thank you. I think doing the board evaluation is important to do. My opinion of the survey questions that were used last year, they didn't really get at board effectiveness. So how are you working together as a board? Where are your skill sets? Those kind of things. It was almost more of an evaluation if you were in a workplace. So that I would think if we're going to have them do it, ask to tailor some questions that way to look at how are the committees functioning? How are you as individual directors advancing your own knowledge? Because that's really what that kind of evaluation would be for. So doing a third party, that's a good thing too, because that also allows people to feel free to say what they need to and get the summary. But those would just be my comments. Yes, it is to the question, is it something that Capacity Canada does? Yes, we do that. But it's also good since I'm coaching and advising you, you may want somebody else that you are having the questions go to.
Cool. All right. This should no voting here. Do we have any more thoughts about it?
Give it to governance committee.
Just make governance committee does everything they do in terms of exercise.
Yeah, it looks good. If we want to recommend it to governance, they can look at it, and if they have anything they want to add, they can bring it. And that's what governance exists. But have fun with that governance committee. So that's what we did last year.
If we could
Resharpen them. The questions? Go on.
yeah, that too. I meant more. I don't know how many students are actually paying close enough attention that they would have opinions of individual board members. But if there was such an engaged student,
if Salopec reached out to actually see how the
area is pretty much nobody who knows all 12 of us in enough detail, that would be useful.
Could do a contest for a MacBook.
We do a contest for a MacBook. Yes. You name board members? Sounds good.
Well, I don't know.
What do you want out of this, Marty? A specific direction? Is that the goal? Other than the fact that I think the board is roughly feeling okay as long as there's noted improvement.
Sorry, you have to repeat that. The audio is a bit off.
Oh, no worries. So the goal of this discussion, should we come to a decision on what to deal with Salopec, or are we looking more to just talk about it?
I would say it's a board decision to request a proposal from Salopec based on the board's mechanism, how you want the evaluation to go. And just as what Sandra mentioned earlier, it's really up to the board to decide. So, but right now it's all about the decision that if get Salopec to jump on board.
Jeff.
Oh, I guess just a question for people then. How I will be back. I'm getting kicked out of my room. We can move on.
Okay. Sorry, Jeff, did you have more of a question there, or was that it?
got kicked out of his room.
I think he said he got kicked out of his room.
Okay.
Hello. Sorry, I got kicked out of my room because I didn't actually book the yeah. My question for everyone was just around in our board policy manual, it kind of implies that people should be giving anonymous direct feedback as well. Do we think that would be something valuable, or do we want to keep things like general? Yeah.
Good idea. No. I think the other boards I sit on, we have very similar mechanisms. There is anonymous feedback that's sent out. It's just dependent on what viewers want to do. That's also from board members where each other. You get a random person anonymously, and you rate how they do. And you can engage. You can show them. I can tell you what board is specifically.
Right. I think where I'm at with this is that. So if we get a proposal from Celotech, is that at that point where they would also quote us how much it would cost? Okay, I'm seeing Sandra nodding.
Yes.
All right, because I think that is the big part of my decision making here, is that if they are running a survey, you don't want it to be thousands of dollars. I feel like should be reasonable. There are many people who could write a survey for much cheaper.
You gotta look at industry standards too, but I think that's fair. That's a fair point. Wow.
So we're doing these termly, right?
Termly, but I think is the point that we hire them once to create the initial idea and then we run it ourselves twice, or is it that they come in?
I think they administrate it each time. Yeah, they do a follow-up. They do, and the follow-up is very in-depth. I'll give them that, but I think it depends on what the questions being asked are.
Okay. We had some comments from Alex to specifically if we are going to ask them for a proposal to improve their questions to be less employee situated and more directed at our situation, and that they are more targeted. But just I guess as a straw poll, because we do not make a decision on this, are people feeling roughly okay with asking Celotech for a proposal? And then I guess we'll discuss it when they get back to us. Is there anyone who feels strongly for or against it even? I mean, I guess strongly against is the more interesting one. Okay. Great. I'm gonna, I guess, move on. That's right.
Do we
I was here a couple of moments.
do we make a motion for that, or do we just, well, Marvin will take care of the motion? No?
It's a
Beautiful.
It's a discussion. I don't know exactly who will be tackling it.
All right.
Sandra, what's up?
Happy with that one. The board's made a discussion. You've had a good discussion. You want to go forward with it. This is where you turn it to staff to look after getting the proposal. So Marvin and Mike will put the request for the proposal together based on the conversation, and then it comes back when you see the proposal.
There you go. All right. Everybody happy? Ready for our actual serious conversation number one? Unless we want to shove Teresa in front of it. Make her have her motion, but assuming that is not the case, let's talk about ERC, because ERC has a report. And I know that we received a letter from the lawyers, but it was for different questions than ERC wrote. Things I think have been a little bit confused. We'll try and run things normally.
Sorry, no, see the other one just came out.
Enough, like in the past few minutes.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
I haven't read it yet. All right, we'll be working through it together.
Should this be confidential? No. Reports from the ERC.
Yeah, Mark just sent it to
Oh. 1 second. Shh. There it is. Maybe it's.
That's if you certainly can request.
Probably.
Probably, yeah.
Okay. Blah, 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 blah.
I mean, wait, no, Zoom. Oh, YouTube. Okay, either way, we should look at the lawyer's opinion. Like, it will be completely wrong not to.
Yeah, we should be.
We completely should look at it. Yes, it's been passed on.
Yeah.
Do we have actual motion with confidential? Is that correct? Actually, if that's the case, okay. I do have an interesting proposal, because Teresa, your motion is not confidential, right?
So we can swap.
Do we want to swap them for the sake of only having to go into confidential once, and then we don't have to kick people out? Then I'm going to make the executive decision to, I guess, shift 2 agenda items, as long as people don't fight me on it. So we don't have to go in confidential. And it will mean Teresa has to present first, but also it gives you a chance possibly to read, and maybe not. Teresa, is your motion, do you want to talk about it, or do you want me to talk about it?
I'll talk about it. So for some context, Jay and I are the current directors that are sitting on most of the co-op related committees with CE. And so there's been a couple of developments in the last couple of meetings that we've attended, specifically the last co-op student council meeting. Essentially, I wanted to just draw board's attention to a couple of not necessarily negative changes, mind you, but like honestly, I'm of the opinion that they're pretty good changes that are coming up pretty quickly. First and foremost, the co-op advisor system is changing such that they're no longer switching termly. They will be assigned to you for the duration of your co-op program. That's going to be applied effective fall 2024. So it's a pretty quick turnaround. And there were some concerns brought up at the CSC meeting about how fast that was going to happen. They have test piloted similar systems to the health faculty to pretty good results. But the idea of it is that because they're no longer assigning these work-term advisors based on your region, they will be assigned based on your faculty. So now co-op advisors will serve students specific to a single faculty. So whatever advisor that I get starting from fall 2024 will they start, I don't know why I said sheets, because my current advisor is one, but whoever they might be would only be working with engineering students. And so that the goal there would be, they'd be most familiar with career paths. They would be able to forge more personal connection with me throughout my co-op terms, stuff like that. That's number one. It's a good change, by the way. There's several other things as well that I didn't necessarily put in the motion. They're in the meeting minutes. Are those in the SharePoint for you guys, by the way? Didn't get a chance to check, but if not, I am sending it to the board chat.
Yeah. Even more things to read, even more. Like
I said, like the motion distills what I think at least board might be most interested in. Shoot, I lost my window.
So for reference to those not necessarily reading, I think the motion that you have sent or you're proposing for us to discuss.
Wait, I'm not there yet. The next thing is salary transparency. The current figure right now is 45% to 55% in terms of employers actually putting numbers or like relevant information for compensation on Waterloo Works. I believe it was last fall that CE started mandating employers fill that field on postings. The question now is whether or not they're actually filling it with stuff that we care about, other than like compensation is competitive. Oh, we have a game room. So that's where we're at in terms of that. And the last, there's also like co-op housing resources thing. I only mention it because it seems a little bare bones as of now. You can click on it to see what I'm talking about. Like it is in essence a web page with hyperlinks on it. So I'll let you guys be the judge of how advanced that is. The big thing that I want to highlight though, and you'll notice that it doesn't have an asterisk because CE has not named it a priority for this year, is the co-op timeline updates. So as of now, the senior manager of student experience at CE has told me that there are no concrete plans to begin a co-op timeline review pretty much in the foreseeable future. The priority as of this year is business development. What that means is just cultivating new relationships with employers to get on Waterloo Works or developing our existing relationships and stuff like that. But the concern is that, and returning board members can correct me if I'm wrong, there has been discussion in the past about possibly reviewing the co-op timeline, not necessarily with regards to anything specific like negotiation period, but more broadly with things like how long cycles are or how short cycles may be. I think the only current thing that they have discussed with regards to timeline updates is reading week. But they haven't even, that's not something that we even touched on at the last meeting, right, Jay? Like they mentioned like, oh, that's like an action for the next meeting.
Even though you can't, if I remember, used to like Just no job posting doing?
Yeah, so
Because
that's
now
all-
there are, is there?
That's the only thing that they're really considering right now, but there's nothing really beyond that. So the concern there is that, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think we have had a co-op timeline review, at least anything formal, since pre-COVID. And a lot has changed since then with regards to our job market and the financial circumstances that students are going through. So it's a little concerning that they are not making any headway on that. And so with that being said, the main question I'm asking is mostly related to timeline updates, but also anything else I've mentioned. Do we have any general thoughts about these upcoming changes that CE's bringing up? Any concerns? Any advocacy goals we'd like to focus on? And if so, how do we want to interface with student societies to explore those goals further, particularly now that we have 3AC? Can I just
Speaker list.
facilitate discussion?
Okay.
Just one. Can I just say? Yeah, I just have a question. So this is great. I think looking into advocacy to review the timeline is actually really good. I think this year's business plan is also really good too, because I know for the arts faculty, having more employers show up would be a very big benefit to our students and like other non-STEM majors as well. So I think we shouldn't fully go against that, but I think advocating for them to look at a timeline review is awesome. I would say it's good to maybe bring this up to the new 3AC committee and get a consultation with societies to see, because I guess technically they would know the students a little bit better on the ground to see what they feel, what they believe, and then they can maybe formulate their info can come to board for us to take a look at. And then from there we can move forward with some type of position. Yeah, I think that's a good compromise though. But yeah, that's my 2 cents.
So the concern here, the reason why I bring the motion up and frame it from the research perspective is that CE, kind of like WUSA in that regard, they place a lot of value on research, right? Before they'll even consider doing any kind of timeline review, they'll want to do research specifically about this. Mm-hmm. But my worry is that, again, like you're correct, there's nothing bad about conducting business development, especially for non-STEM students at Waterloo. But the concern is that they have no plans to dedicate any research bandwidth to this. So as it stands right now, I don't think that we can just come to them and say, you should start doing research on this, because I don't think that they will. So my question to you as board is that WUSA, we have really good research resources ourselves, right? Like we have the RSP, we do there's a lot of potential there for us to explore our own research specific to co-op and other advocacy topics. So I'm wondering where you guys might stand on that, as in utilizing our own resources to explore advocacy specific to co-op.
So that's very dependent on if it's on the annual plan and it's a part of at least the department already has a decent amount of from my talks of what we need to look for this year has a good amount of stuff on its plate. So operationally, and I'll leave this if Andrina was here, it'd be really good to ask her because they take a big part of the advocacy. I think it'd be good if we want, we can sit down and have a talk with her and see what they're capable of. Melissa? Actually, Melissa, that's great. If you want to come in and talk about.
I don't want to put her on the spot, but she doesn't feel good.
Yeah, what is feasible?
Yeah, I would just say, Teresa, we're at the stage of getting the annual plan and the advocacy priorities within that plan sorted out. So I think if the decision is made that co-op and this question specifically is one of the things we want to prioritize, then we're still working on mapping out what the research plan is for the year once that annual plan is approved. So I think there's bandwidth to do it if it's prioritized. I'll just note currently from what the items that we did bring to you folks at transition as sort of our starting scan based on what's left from last year and what we have on the radar of this year, co-op is not currently one of those areas. There are a large number of other areas that are on that list. So I would think that if this is something that the board wants to prioritize, it's likely that we'll have to move something off that list. So we're still in the right timeline to do that. So bringing it up now is great. We can have the conversation maybe at 3AC for some of those initial sort of temperature check in terms of how folks are feeling as where that priority is. And then if it feels like it's worth doing more, then we can look at how we prioritize that and build that into the plan. So, but it isn't currently on the radar in terms of some of the things that I know we're bringing forward. So now would definitely be the time to do a little bit of digging and decide whether it is something that we want to prioritize with looking at the other items.
Sean,
I think about that. I think two things. I think the first one is like this would hinge that CE or co-op or whatever that entity is would take our research and like take it into consideration with their own decisions. Okay.
Historically,
Okay.
You can correct me, like, again, you can correct me if I'm wrong here, but from my communications, specifically with them from last year, CE has been positively receiving research related to co-op from WUSA. So I don't think it would be a problem if we brought any kind of findings of our own to the table. I think they would appreciate it. I think Gabrielle, she expressed interest in seeing those kinds of things. Wish them were here right now, though. She did mention.
No, and then my only other thing was I do wonder if the research that co-op could do might be not to knock down WUSA research at all, but co-op is co-op, so they do know the field because it is their field of expertise. So I do wonder if maybe their research would be like more in depth, but really valuable things to think about.
It's a fair point. I just think, like, as of now, I don't see them doing any, like, I don't see them moving towards a direction of a timeline review anytime soon. Genuinely, like, that's just not really where their head is at from what.
But could that be changed if we had research to give them?
That would change. So even if theoretically, I think if CE did, like, they put, like, you're right, like they've done various other survey platforms for years, like they've had the qual student survey running for years, 6 years now, I think. They are good, but it's a question of more so, like, I don't think it's prudent to sit around waiting when, especially when we have stuff like reneg consequences where we've seen students both saying that we'd like a buffer period between receiving rankings and then making, like, receiving our match, versus students even saying, like, cycles are too long. And then especially given changing factors right now with housing and students struggling financially, international students as well.
So your argument is we actually don't know which side to push on because we don't know what students want.
Yeah, exactly. Like, the goal here isn't necessarily for us to decide now, like, hard stances on any of these issues, but more so to start researching in earnest.
Jeff, sorry, hands up. Your hand has been up for a little while. What's up?
No worries. Two questions. First one for Teresa. Have you talked to CE about whether they would welcome? I guess, have you talked to CE about the potential of external support for this? Like, if WUSA was to support this, I'd expect we'd need some collaboration on their end to maybe help out with.
I know Gabrielle has confirmed as of last year's board to them that she is receptive to WUSA's research. I believe it was brought up during some of the reneg discussions as well. But they are willing and open to take a look at any findings that we have from our research platforms.
Awesome.
Sorry, Jeff.
Sorry. Yeah, sorry. I had a second question then. So from what I heard about Melissa, like, if this is something that we do want to make a priority for the board, we should. What would be the best way for us to express that in advance of you guys bringing forwards the annual plan? Would you because, like, personally, I think this is something that would be amazing if we could dedicate resource towards, but perhaps we should set some, like, go around the table and make sure that is the case for advocacy to go forwards and prioritize that. Do you want some sort of motion, or is this discussion enough to get us?
I think we'll get to it in a second.
Actually, I have a motion prepared. I just didn't know how the discussion would go.
Okay.
So,
Can I
judging by vibe.
question first? Alex, sorry. I think I saw you had a thought of Gabrielle accepting the research. Is that right? Did I misunderstand?
Did she explicitly say that? I don't remember. Gabriel says that she's gonna accept WUSA's research.
So this was, I believe this was brought up during the reneg discussions, and that was one of the things Sam brought up during those discussions, was that WUSA did, and I think some of those findings might be in the reneg document. I'm not 100% sure. But they have expressed interest in the past about seeing this research.
So I'll say something as well. I think it's best to get that, like, if Trisha, you want to have a conversation with them and like get the opinion from them and then present that to board, and that's like concrete that they say, yes, we will take this research. I would say that if we're going to add this to our annual plan, something has to come off. Think about that as well. I'll say from external perspective, our annual plan actually very nicely matches our external partners plans, which makes advocacy very easy, and the research we do, especially for the papers that are coming up, that have to be referred, written, and researched for, consultations as well on that front and our end. So there's a big area of it. I think it's good if you want to do a little bit more have a little bit more conversation with co-op, perhaps see if they're actually going to take that research if it happens. And then board can take a look at the current annual plan, take a look at, I will also tell you guys what our external partners' plans are as well, and how that correlates. And then from there, we can make a decision later if we want to make this a priority, which is a good priority. It's just about mitigating in a way that doesn't damage other work. That's also equally important. That's how I would put it.
So then I guess my question to board would be, let's entertain the possibility that CE says, hey, like, thanks for this research. Might look at it. Would that sway your opinion of whether or not we dedicate research bandwidth to this?
If they say that,
if they're like,
if they say no, then there's no point. But if they say we'll actually take your research into account, that means they won't be for nothing. Let's have Melissa as well. She wants to say something.
Thanks. Yeah, I think in terms of process, in my mind, and Sandra or Suzanne, feel free to jump in as I make it up as I go. What I was going to say is, knowing that we presented those some of those other themes originally and have been working out the specific tactics as to what that work would look like. I know that we're working to set up a couple of meetings between, I think, this board meeting and the next board meeting to have some more of those conversations and share that with you folks before it formally comes to the July meeting, if that's sort of the plan. That we could share those. You can take a look at what those are. I can let Andrina know this is something that's of interest and is sort of potentially on the table. And then as you folks see what that work is and consider this work, we can then have the conversation about priority, because I think in general that's another place we're going to have that, is not only will we share sort of what we're thinking based on all those things that Arya talked about and other things from last year and ongoing, is not only what's there, but the priority of what's there. And then at that point, this won't be a surprise, but we can decide whether you folks can decide whether it makes its way into what order. So we can definitely do that. And then Teresa, maybe in the meantime, you and Andrina could have a conversation about, because I know Andrina goes to those and is involved in those committees as well as the support person. You folks could talk about maybe going back to Gabrielle and asking some additional questions about this and sort of saying, this is something we're thinking and feeling that, if we were able to help support some of this or bring some of that, where are you at in that timeline? Like, you folks might be able to assess that a little bit over the next little bit. And then when it comes to sharing those priorities and thinking about where this fits, we could have a bit of that information and then also have this to consider once you see what those other pieces are. So I don't know how that sounds, but I can definitely talk to Andrina about it. We can do some interim discussions with our contacts over there, and then we can let everybody see that fulsome list, and then you folks can decide where you feel like those priorities lie.
I have Jeff, but do you mind if I step in, Jeff?
Go for it.
I think we've accidentally ended up on a tangent that I don't think we've noticed. Because Teresa, correct me if I'm wrong, but your point isn't about changing advocacy priorities. It's about having OCC focus on including research in co-op.
That would be one way to do it.
Like specifically, it's about using the representative survey platform to look at topics related to co-op, which could then be used by things like 3AC for the advocacy department in the future.
That was the advocacy pathway I was picturing.
Okay, so not necessarily about changing priorities today, but instead about tasking OCC. Is that where we're looking at more?
Well, I didn't put forward any question yet. But
I'll go over to Jeff to start with.
Okay, I guess I don't know how relevant this is anymore, but answering Teresa's question about whether it not being consumed or not, I don't actually think it would, like, I would still be in support of it regardless, because I think that as, WUSA, our job is to represent what students are, like, the difficulties students face and what they think and want. And something like that, even if it doesn't have immediate, like, if there's no immediate action triggered by that, would certainly inform future decisions regardless. One good example is the housing report that we put back a few years ago. It wasn't directly presented to anybody, but I know from conversations with others has been referenced by municipal and other stakeholders, municipal, university, and other stakeholders in the future. So either way, I think this would provide a lot of value to students. But I guess if we can start off with less through whatever Teresa might propose, then that's also fantastic. But we should, if we do intend to make full use of this, I do think we probably would require some advocacy support.
Okay. Teresa, do you want to propose a motion today?
Let's hear what Melissa wants to say first.
Okay. Sorry, I didn't interrupted my blind spot. Melissa.
That's okay. No worries. The only thing I was going to say, Nick, was to your point that certainly it can go to OCC and OCC can have discussions about utilizing research, but I would think that OCC's guiding light would be the annual plan as to what they want to prioritize for student consultation for research. So I feel like in general, if it's a thing we want to focus on, it probably is a 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. So that was all. We can, I think if we look at it that way and we do some interim stuff, then that would probably be the most fulsome way to build it into the work, in my opinion.
Because I know that it does flow a little bit into some of the campaign points that at least my team was bringing up as well, to try and focus a little bit more on expanding student labor rates. So I'm not against the idea of making co-op at least a little bit more of a priority than it is. But I also know that, I don't know, there are multiple ways of doing that. So I'm not married to any individual ones. Teresa, you actually have your finger up.
Yeah, I just want to emphasize what Nick said. This isn't, I don't necessarily need research specifically within the scope of purely co-op timeline review. That's like the main thing that I'm thinking about right now as of this year. But Nick is correct in that the goal here is for us to be able to start shifting some of our own research resources towards co-op specific topics in general. Because like I mentioned, there's so many changing factors now with co-op that WUSA should probably be staying on top of so that we're not stuck, similar to the rename consequences where we're kind of having to scramble and work backwards to react to a situation rather than us already having the research, already having our ear to the ground on what students are thinking and feeling about co-op, so that we can advocate from a generative perspective rather than always trying to look behind us.
Okay, I feel like
Let's say one quick thing.
Okay, fine.
No way. That's very good. I think for advocacy that want to do any consultations, just keep in mind that it should in theory be aligned with what we want to do in the year. Like we shouldn't have side projects outside of what our priorities are. If you want to make it a priority, that's fair. But again, resources are limited in the way they do it as well. So I would recommend actually not making a motion, taking a look at giving board some time to actually look at that position, see if there's ways to move things around or what is what, and then later on coming back to this discussion of if you guys want to make it an actual priority. But if you want to take energy out of the department to focus on an external thing that's not on the annual plan for our goals, I don't know how feasible that is realistically. It's just, I don't think it's feasible.
I think there's also a question of adapting the annual plan to match possibly what the goals are, but we should make a decision on that. Teresa, I think it's getting circular. I would like you to either make a motion or for us to move on. Sorry.
You know what? What's the worst that can happen? Shoot me if this motion doesn't go through, guys.
Okay. Well, I have sent it to Mike in case he wants to pull it up. I'm assuming that you sent me Let's take a look at the motion Teresa has before us. If Mike wants to pull it up. Is Mike allowed to pull it up? Do I have to pull it up? I forget how this works.
Either chat.
It's just in chat. All right, I'll drop a copy of it in chat so that they can read it on their own. More reading. More reading.
This one's short, don't worry. It's shorter than the.
It's got background, but that's the important part.
The
motion use to task the Ownership Consultation Committee with exploring using the representative survey platform for advocacy-specific research topics will be brought to the Advocacy Positions Committee, Academic Affairs Advisory Committee, and CEE meetings to aid with and generate new advocacy initiatives. The results of this exploration should be ready for review in approximately 2 months. We do actually have a motion, so I can do like speaking order. If people want to put things in the chat or just like.
Sorry, there might be a small typo in here.
I think I just struggled reading it.
No. I'm looking at the live version of the talk in front of me.
Yes. And for the sake of, okay. There's an update immediately.
Okay.
Move your cursor so I can update it, please.
Yeah, there we go.
Otherwise, it's gonna be here. Okay, fine. I'll just do. All right. Any discussion? First, actually, I should ask for a seconder. To start with, would anyone like to second Teresa's motion? Anyone is seconding Teresa's motion. Mover, would you like to speak to the motion? Teresa, would you like to speak to the motion? Specifically the motion. Not general, just the motion.
I mean, not much else to say other than what I've already said. The focus right now would obviously be co-op, but you'll notice with the phrasing of the motion, I've left it vague specifically so that this is something that we can continue to carry forward as the year progresses, perhaps even in the future for future iterations of board, simply because we have such a powerful research platform as it stands. And I feel like it can really fill in a lot of gaps in terms of waiting on administration to pick up the slack where we have the ability to hear the student voice really close to the ground. And I think it's time for us to start utilizing that effectively rather than waiting on, other organizations like CE who in their own right do good research. But with the resources that we have, we can also make a lot of progress.
Emma, you seconded it. Technically, that means you get to talk second if you want to.
I don't think I can put it any better than Teresa said it.
That's fine. Any more comments? Alex.
Quick question. Sorry, has this now molded to what I'm reading? Has this molded from what I thought was specifically for the co-op, the co-op research into that co-op thing to just this? Because this is much more broad in general.
Yeah, I'm open to amendments if we want to make it specific, but I made it vague purposely for the fact that ideally we'd like this to be future-proof.
I'd like to say something. Again, I talked a lot on votes.
Yeah, no one else is in order. Aria.
Thank you. The only reason I would go against it is just because I think it's jumping over the annual plan. I don't think it's bad. I think if an annual plan passes with co-op as a priority of what it wants to do, this is very fine steps to take. But because the annual plan hasn't been even moved forward, to go over its head and do this, I think would just not be good practice. So with that reason, I would just say that the whole idea, it's not a bad idea, but I think it should be in the annual plan before we make a move like this.
One note before we get to Jeff, for new points, I will be doing 3-minute limit. No one's gotten close yet. Don't worry. Jeff.
Just a quick question for Teresa. When I guess the result of this exploration, what would you expect? Would you expect the committee to come back with like, hey, if we ever want to look more into this issue, this is sort of the steps we could follow, the resources we could leverage, the people we'd want to talk to? Is it sort of like a workflow exploration of how we'd get to there?
Yes, I'm not looking for, at least my intention of the motion was not necessarily looking for results, concrete results to bring back to CE right away, but more so understanding how our current survey platform, how our current, how would you say, our other resources that we use to gauge student voice could be used for things like co-op, like fairly specific advocacy topics. So yeah, you're right. More of a workflow exploration, less so of you guys need to bring back results in 2 months. Because I understand like first month, all the committees are getting set up and everything. Melissa also mentioned too, with regards to the annual plan and kind of figuring out committees in the beginning, like it takes a bit of time. So yeah, I'm not looking for results. Not by a long shot.
Cool. I have myself on the speaking order. Is it raining? It's raining really hard.
Oh, dude.
Okay. I guess I do have a comment, which is I think even if it is not necessarily a priority for the advocacy department, it is something that will be used almost immediately by 3AC. So If it is provided, it would immediately be used.
The results
That's a
are
very fun space to make.
That's a very good point.
like results of
Results of this would immediately be brought up in CE meetings and other meetings that individuals who sit on 3AC then have with CE staff, other resources. And I have nothing more to say, so I'll throw it over to Suzanne.
I just want, and it's already been said, but I just want to reiterate, like, if you folks are going to use resources within the org for certain priorities, they're going to take it away from others. So I just want there to be clarity of that, whether you're passing that motion in that way or not, that's what's going to happen. The work is going to need to be done to bring it back to you. So I just wanted to know that.
Yeah, like just magically do everything.
No,
You catch me on a good day, yeah.
with that, right? So
Okay.
reasonable unless I just.
Teresa, I have you as a direct response.
This is a direct response to you, by the way.
To me?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
I just want to make a correction. To be clear, when the motion refers to results, I'm not saying results of surveys specific to co-op. I'm saying results of understanding how a research workflow might operate. If that makes any sense.
Yeah, okay. I guess I'm wrong. Sorry.
That's okay.
Maybe and there are eventually results. Anybody else online? Okay. Any hands in the room? Nope. I guess we should take a vote, and I should actually make sure I am in the chat because people put their hands up in chat. I do not need to have my microphone or camera on. I just need to see people's faces. All right. Well then, let's start with all in favor of the motion as presented.
Do I vote on? Can I vote on my own motion?
Yes, that's.
Yeah, that's not bad. That's bad though.
We have 4 plus some number that I have to check, which I'm seeing 4 plus 3, Jeff, Emma, and Chevin. And there's 4 in the ring, so that is 7-4. Can I go?
There's 8 hands. Fatima also raised her hand.
Oh, Fatima as well. No, sorry, Fatima as well. 8-4. Can I get all against the motion as presented? I'm seeing 2 against. And my guess is that we're gonna have 2 abstentions. Are we gonna have 2 abstentions? I see Jay abstain. And do we have any other abstentions?
It's you. You're the 13th. 8
I have 8 plus 2 plus. I voted 4.
Oh.
Got it. Okay. Thank you. That makes sense. Thanks much. Okay. The motion presented passes with a count of 8-2. Are there any disasters in operations before we move on? Did anybody feel like that was very unfair? Just a little unfair?
No.
So, I'm so sorry. I was sorry to hear again. Okay. Going back to the top of this in theory, was there anything else, Teresa, that you wanted to discuss for co-op changes?
Yeah, one more thing that's not on my discussion item, but Chevin actually asked me about that. I just wanted to highlight was renege consequences and progress we have made to that end. The answer, none. Well, that remains to be seen because this year, policy 70's co-op policy 70 will be brought to Senate for review, specifically with regards to a tiered system for reneging, as in bringing up the possibility of students possibly preemptively petitioning rather than having to commit the renege and then petition after. What's being reviewed is giving students the option to think, hey, I'm in a situation right now where feasibly I might have to renege. Let me put forward a petition to P70 committee. I'll see how it goes. And depending on how that result comes out, I'll choose to renege or not. It saves students a ton of stress if this goes through. Just my personal opinion. But yeah, that will be reviewed at Senate later this year. And that's it.
Chevin, because it was about you, do you have any specific questions? The update was no updates, and we have Chevin's little chat bubble has popped up for your information. Anything else on co-op before we keep going? seeing none, I'm gonna make another proposal. So we can continue to delay going confidential, which is, do we want to do the non-confidential officer reports in the non-confidential portion?
I would actually say,
Do you want it's confidential?
it's okay. I can say it, like it doesn't matter. Who likes it?
Suzanne,
I shouldn't.
I like it just for confidential.
It's a topic and
Okay.
Maybe we should then.
All right, I'm okay with doing the public ones in public. Anybody against doing all of our public and then confidential, because that's what this was looking like it'll be? Cool. Who do we want to start off? Aria, you started off last time. Do you want to start off again?
Mine is very brief. And I send my thank out to you guys to see. So one big update. I'm now the vice president of finance for WUSA. So I sit on that board as well and have some comments. So sometimes I'm not going to vote if WUSA related things come up, just for you guys to know. I'm part of the organization. Annual plan for WUSA has been submitted. What the priorities are have been already assessed by them. What past papers are being written. All those are in my report. You can take a look and read it. Beautiful. One thing about federal advocacy that I want you to have up in your minds is that we're having major issues with UPU. The organization still is missing 2 officers on its board. It is not fully compliant as timeline is approaching. It is incorporated as well. So we will have a review of that in September with this work plan. Yeah, it's horrible.
Confidential.
Is this confidential? Oh, well, it's what we're looking for. It's what we're looking for.
Another organization's risk though.
Yes, but it's public.
Okay.
Okay.
That's what is public.
Okay. Then it's not.
No, that's not us. No worries. I'm the board member. Don't worry. Don't worry. Don't worry. Don't worry. Don't worry. So that's all public currently. So there's issues with the organization internally as well, right? I would say we're engaging with CASA this year, which is really good, which is our other federal advocacy organization. They're doing very good. Just keep it in mind of where you want to see our federal advocacy go in the coming little while. Because from what I'm seeing, engaging with you is not resulting in any benefits for us, and it's putting us at risk currently from WUSA perspective. That's what I'm going to say in the non-confidential. For you.
Say
Just wait on that.
I'm going to attempt to do share, I think, for my report, and we'll go through it then. Okay. All right. Report of the president. How do I steal the screen again? Here. Then I go to deal. No, I'm present here. Share. Screen. Do the screen. That's fine. Okay. Save. Hold on. See if this loads. Board reports. Slideshow. Wow, it's June 13th. Hey everybody, it's June 13th. That's today. Happy June. Did a bunch of stuff in the past month since we last talked. The easy highlights are on ERC. We wrote a bunch of referendum questions that are not going to go into detail on now. Did a bunch with SciSoc. Like we fully paid for their SPPRO training because it was free. But just in case, we did not have to worry about it. As well, came up with an advocacy plan. I have to keep talking with Andrea about exact specifics, but more things to talk about there. But we have some initial starting points to deal with. Trans healthcare, which do not require insurance. That's the important part. Is talking with people about how we can improve healthcare without changing our insurance yet, because insurance is annoying. And there are other ways that we can improve healthcare that don't necessarily require us to actually get insurance. We can do a lot of quality of life stuff that makes it substantially easier for people without necessarily needing to do money. Comms team asked me to do a bunch of stuff, did a bunch of stuff there for advertising, technically for access. On the advocacy side, had a nice big meeting with SciSoc and MathSoc, and unfortunately Brian could not attend because he had cold, and I forgot that he had a cold. I was confused why I was there. I had proceeded to forget Brian had a cold multiple times that week. Sorry.
My man thanks you.
Good. And especially in the Senate, which you read all about, at USRC, which is Undergraduate Students Relations Committee, talked about ARG, where are the report updates? The Martini's here for Nush online. Which was the other person paying attention. Talk about the Collins person with USRC a little bit, and the big news there is that there is no news. The HR department of the university has had some staffing changes, which means that they have not made us a priority, which is always disappointing, but that's fine. There's a bunch, weirdly enough, but the UW mascot that's coming up. This is part of various peace motions in the past general meetings, one of which I had with Bartis Chagger. I don't know. She was there as part of the discussion, and that's the topic we ended up on. As far as I can tell, she's on our side. Our mascot should be a goose. There's enough people warriors. On the relation side, before we move to the next slide, I went to town down number 1, which had 3 topics: bring up housing, hunger, and international students. I was at a golf tournament. I did not play golf. To play golf would have cost $5,000. So I did not play golf. Which, yeah, a lot. We went to Student Care Montreal. They didn't want to talk to us about what we wanted to talk about. They didn't want to talk to us about a lot. They didn't want to talk about those stuff we wanted to talk about. Annoying. I know. And then the other big thing, which is part of why I've been dressed nice today, other than just because I dressed up for you guys, is that I feel like WUSA should have a job in some of the ceremonial and stuff that the university does, so that people feel like we're important, even maybe more than we are. Because if we give the right perception of importance, because we're at the important ceremonial things, then people think we're important. It's the facade. Any questions on this before I move to my next slide? In case anyone wants to talk about specifically the golfing. I don't know. Teresa, you got a question?
Did you golf?
I did not golf.
Will you golf?
So I do not intend to golf. I'm not a golf guy.
Are you golfing?
No, I'm not actually golfing.
You guys seen that video of Elijah with?
Yeah.
Okay.
More things. I did a bunch of practices this time. These two are just like studying things. I have a bunch of responsibilities for like long range planning, sometimes at the university, sometimes ideally here. Design and sustainability. So I did a bunch of studying about previous work that people had done at the university, specifically about this and specifically about our issues. Felt useful. I had a bunch of stuff on micro credentials that came out in the past few days. And it's something that the university is kind of interested in. And Hecco, which you'll see in my other meetings through WUSA, talking to Hecco before that report came out. Now I've read the report, and micro credentials do not look good. And some of the people that we met at WUSA meetings were very pro micro credential, and Hecco is like, they don't work. So it's fine. We had let us vote for the term, and it didn't break the 2 grams per second barrier. Annoying. Other fun things. Here's a cool one. One of the advocacy things we did is talk to Goldie Hill, who is at Health Services, about making sure that when the prescriptions are given out that require you to inject them in various ways, you get the right number of needles, because they've been giving out the wrong number of needles, which seems like it should be an easy thing. And hopefully that'll be in the column to the left pretty soon, because this is probably a case of just the dose size changed, so they didn't update the needle count to give out. I hope it'll move over very quickly. Talked to the alumni president about design priorities, which was related to the one on the left where I studied design priorities, and now it's in the middle. And then there's a fun one about I participated in an upcoming strategic agreement with the University of Hong Kong. Don't remember which one, but it's been a weird one because it is Hong Kong, which has strange administration results. On the relations side, talked to Council of Universities about housing data, and I'm getting mixed replies. It's a bit of strange. See how it goes? You've seen the list meetings. Any questions about this slide before we move to what I think is my final slide? Yes. Cool. Final slide of the open section. I went to Transformative Quantum Technology, which is on North Campus. It is one of the research groups. It is the most funded research group on campus. They have over $100 million in funding, and they get several $1 million annually to increase it. They're insanely funded, but they had a new inert atmospheric cluster, which is where a lot of the research money goes. A lot of our research money goes to this, so I thought it was worth the time to actually see what it's being used for. and how much they're producing. And this is also where pretty much all of the fundamental research that happens at UW, which is like defined as fundamental research, is through these guys. What's up?
Where is this located?
RAC 1 and 2. Where? Research Advancement Center 1 and Research Advancement Center 2, which are near the Frisbee golf course, if you've ever been there.
Okay.
Yeah, but they're on the other side of the accelerator center from here.
Wow.
For those of you who are interested. They are very well-funded buildings. The buildings themselves aren't that very impressive. And then they talk about how expensive each individual component is. And like, oh, this one cube was like $3 million. And there are dozens of cubes and pipes, very expensive pipes. A lot of custom stuff as well, which also increases costs. I think. Oh yeah, my phone broke, so I'm finding photographs. Sorry, but I think that's the end of my public report. So, thank you very much for the comms team. I'll move my public report for probably after the meeting. I should stop sharing now. Probably after the meeting, I'll move my public portion of the report to the public portion of the report section that the comms team has access to. Okay, yeah, that's me. If there are no questions, we'll move on to Suzanne. And if there are questions, please let me know now before we move on to Suzanne. I think we could probably move on to Suzanne then. Suzanne.
Certainly take questions on the report, people said to look at it. Well, there wasn't one from Melissa's area, she was away, but other than that, it's really not.
You have questions? Is it me? Do I have a question?
Yeah.
I didn't have any questions.
Okay. There aren't any questions.
Okay. Do we have literally anything else just for the sake of everyone's time online or confidential? I don't think so. I know I have a confidential report. Maybe Ari does. The Suzanne does, but we'll go to ERC before that, I think. Okay. Well then, does anyone want a motion to move into confidential? All right, there you go. First and second. Does anyone have any votes against moving to confidential? And I will abstain from moving to confidential. Does anybody else want to abstain from moving to confidential other than me? All right, cool. I guess let's go to confidential. Let us know when we're there.